I've been dealing with digital currencies since the late 90s, specifically around games like World of Warcraft and Second Life. I was the primary market maker in enabling the secondary markets in these games. I built up a supply chain in the early 2000s of 400,000 people in China that were playing video games professionally to mine digital currency. I've done tens of billions of dollars of business in that space, having sold the last of those companies last year until something coming up here today, which is Wax, and this is kind of the evolution of that. If you haven't seen their deal, I recommend it. But that's how I ended up here and done a lot of things with a lot of you. Let's see if I got clicker working, or I'm not connected to that device. Want to just go next to this next slide? Or we're not live at all yet. Anyway, I had a disclaimer here for you. But I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things. One is the ICO market and just kind of state of the union. It's my view that, kind of venture capital is going away. Well, I can also talk about my wife's company briefly, but I think I end on that note. So let's talk about where I think everybody is today. Everybody's made hopefully quite a bit of money recently. If you've been in this space, it's kind of hard not to. And some of you may not have ever made money before in your lives. And I want to kind of remind everybody when we're in these raw high moments that we need to keep our feet on the ground. And that is that money doesn't always change us for the better. Sometimes it actually changes us for the worse. An interesting data point is if a person loses a limb and someone wins a lottery, so you have someone that's lost a limb, an amputee now, and someone that's won the lottery, 3 years later, statistically speaking, whom do you think is happier? The amputee. What does that tell you? When you're in these moments of, coming into wealth for the first time in your lives, I just want to remind you to don't forget about what got you into this business. This is a technology that is going to change the world and for the better. We have 3 billion people on the planet that don't have any financial services whatsoever, another 2 to 3 billion people with limited financial services. We are going to be changing the lives of billions of people for the better. And let's remember, not to lose, never compromise your integrity. I try to help every single person in this industry to the extent that I can, and the only sort of thing that I expect from any of you when I'm helping you is never, ever, ever compromise your integrity. It's very, very difficult to get back. And, sometimes people, they feel the need to do that because, there's an economic opportunity there. There's, there's some easy money to be had. We are reinventing money. There is going to be, so much abundance available to us. There's not any reason to ever compromise your integrity. So let's jump into that. I think you can all read that? Okay, good. There's 3 major trends right now that I think are kind of tying all of this together. The first of which is that the world is going from this concept of proprietary software to open source software. And a big part of what the blockchain is enabling is historically to participate in the open source software movement. It was a voluntary action that you would take on for the purposes of social credit or philanthropic sort of contribution. And when there's a problem with that open source code, it's not anyone's real job normally to fix it. So the open source, sort of community and what it represents is so powerful and so impactful, but it's only scaling at such a rate because of the fact that it's voluntary in nature. What the blockchain is doing in tokenization is it's creating the financial incentive, for the entire world to become open source and quickly. We're seeing the same thing with hardware and the idea that we always had to have our own assets, whether it be Airbnb and things of that nature. We can share things and get better utilization of things. We can be more efficient, in the things that we do, and that we're moving from a centralized world to a decentralized world. And I think of these as the 3 major trends that are, culminating in what we are all doing here now. I like to focus on this in particular because blockchain Capital's new logo is a digital starfish, and it comes from this. And that is, do you know what happens when you cut the leg off a spider? It walks with a limp. If you cut a second leg off, more of a limp, its head, it's dead. But with a starfish, if you cut off its leg, it grows back. And if you cut off that leg with any part of the center of the starfish, it becomes an entirely new starfish, that leg. And if you cut it 5 ways through the center, it will become 5 starfish. It's the greatest example of a decentralized system in nature, and this is this big trend of moving away from centralized systems to decentralized and distributed systems. So where are we today? It's 2017. You know, a lot of us have been around for a long time. Some of you are new. One thing I'd like to tell you there is if you're new to the business, back to integrity, you know, because something people are always like, Brock, am I too late? Have I missed the boat? And my response is, if anything, you're too early. You know, there's only 10 or 20 million people in this space. This is like 1994, 1995. Don't have this fear of missing out and just try to jump into the first project before you know what you're doing. If you're new to this space, the advice I try to give everyone is take at least 6 months of just helping other people. And that might result in remuneration, but just help people without making commitments. Don't get married. Go date for a little while, learn the ropes, learn a little bit about the business so that you can start to make decisions about where you want to, you know, make your major investment of your time, where you want to take your superpowers and superhero skills and apply them hopefully for the betterment of other people. So, but State of the Union, where are we now? The technology is starting to take off in a big way in the developing world, you know, from a digital sort of currency perspective, and we're starting to see, you know, obviously in the developed world, massive piloting and testing of the enterprise. And that's where the opportunities lie. You know, people used to come up to me all the time and they'd say, Brock, you know, because they've read an article or two about Bitcoin and they think it's bad because they've, you know, read some sensational headline from, you know, some fake news journalist. And they'd be like, why should I want Bitcoin? And I would always use reverse psychology on them. And my response would be, you shouldn't. And they're like, what do you mean I shouldn't? And I'm like, well, it's not for you. And they're like, what do you mean not for me? I go, well, do you have a bank account? And they're like, yeah. And I go, I'm guessing you got a piece of plastic in your pocket that lets you conveniently pay for things too. And you've got faith in the system, and there's rule of law that's here in theory to protect you and often will. And of the 200 currencies in the world, you've got one that everyone wants more of. You know, this is going to improve your life in the short term by 1 or 2%, and I'm guessing you don't get up every day to clip coupons. But again, look south of the border. You know, look at Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, in the same way that Africa leapfrogged wired telecommunications and went straight to wireless. You know, this is why we're going to see this adoption. How many of you know that what the most advanced payment country in the world is? The most advanced infrastructure? You can shout it out if you know. It's Kenya. Kenya. You're looking at something like 80% of all transactions are now being conducted on a mobile phone. And the primary currency in Kenya is no longer the government-issued one or the Kenyan shilling. The primary currency being used in Kenya today is a product called M-Pesa, or a prepaid cell phone minute. It's like the telecom standard versus the gold standard. The currency is prepaid minutes. And it's because in Kenya, they needed it the most. They couldn't open up bank accounts because people didn't have physical addresses. You know, when I was walking home from, you know, work, I had to worry about being robbed and killed, and I wanted to have something digital so that people didn't have an incentive to attack me. That's why you're going to see mass adoption in these sorts of places. You know, Africa is, I think, the most likely spot where that's going to happen. But it's also potentially in, you know, places like Venezuela, you know, where they're undergoing, you know, just some of the worst possible, you know, I mean, environment that you could imagine living in. It's dangerous for everyone there. I mean, you have a nation essentially falling apart. But there is, you know, potentially good things that can come out of this. I mean, places like Puerto Rico right now, again, good things can come out of this. When systems fail, there's an opportunity to rebuild. You know, and there's always that phoenix from the ashes, and why is that map not showing up right? But I think most of you get these concepts, and currency controls are probably worth touching on for a moment. You know, with everything going on in China, you know, China's main argument being that it's about consumer protection, which is a good thing. Lots of people are getting ripped off. You know, anytime you have an asymmetry of information this great between the people that, you know what's up, and with returns like these and people that don't know, I mean, every cockroach in the world is coming out of the woodwork. And that's where I talk about integrity. You know, we are responsible and not to enable, you know, people doing bad things. You know, that you have an infinite amount of opportunity in front of you right now. Do not make those compromises. So on the financial institution side, we've had obviously a bunch of institutions coming in 2014 and 2015. That continued to accelerate to more or less everybody that's anybody is obviously using this technology at this point. It's only small enterprises that don't have, you know, the resources in some cases that aren't doing it, but it's pretty much everyone. But because Bitcoin and Ethereum and the systems we have today aren't able to do more than 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 transactions a second. Most of these ideas are still theoretical, and they're being done on private blockchains, much in the same way that large enterprises worked with intranets in the early 90s. They're eventually going to migrate to public blockchains over time. Not in all cases, because there's still going to be a role for intranets like there is today, and there will be a role for private blockchains, even though most of the time they can use databases for better. But next year is the year where we're going to be seeing scalable blockchains. We're going to be able to start doing things, 100,000 transactions per second, which are the types of numbers you need to do a lot of the things that we're talking about, in terms of these big ideas. They're not actually possible today. It's theoretical. But you don't build for the market of today. You should be, as entrepreneurs and innovators, building for the market of tomorrow. If you're going to build something that takes 2 years to make, you don't want to be building what the market wants today. You have to predict what the market's going to want 2 years from now and 3 years from now. But yeah, we're going to start to see this big sort of where we go from pilots to the rolling out of these technologies. And when that happens, that means the revenue for all the startups and the people that are building things in this area are going to boom. And when that happens, M&A starts, animal spirits. So this world of abundance that we're experiencing right now, I don't think is going to end anytime soon. We may go through a 1999-2000 bubble crash. I raised nearly $100 million in 97, 98, 99. I was there through it all. Been doing this stuff for a while. But anyway, I think that's important, and it's a global phenomenon. Historically, resources have only been available to innovators that are, basically in California or a handful of these hubs where resources have been available. The one thing that's happening with this whole trend right now is you can be anywhere in the world and raise money. Which means now innovators can come from anywhere. Now anyone in the world can, make these amazing things happen. And it's every major VC in the space that's playing in it. The only one that hadn't been investing in the space was Sequoia, but they're now in too. So I don't think there's anyone left. If you need any other data points, in terms of, is this market validated? Do you know what's up? I mean, every major venture firm in the world is in. Every major institution is in. If that doesn't tell you something big is happening, I don't know what will. This is interesting in terms of how capital came into the space. Most people think of me as a financier, so I'm touching on this stuff. And that is that in 2014, the sector took in capital that was very similar to the internet in 1995. In 2015, it took in capital very similar to the internet in 96. But back then, it cost $5 million to make a website to sell shoes online. Thanks to open source software and SaaS and Amazon Web Services and the other things that are coming from our space, we can build things for very little in the way of resources. Massive things are going to come out of it. But what's interesting is in 2016, it kind of went flat. But the number of entrepreneurs in this space continued to increase rapidly. And the quality of these entrepreneurs voting with their feet continued to improve. But the generalist VC said, hey, there's not enough revenue, there's not enough action here, I want more proof points. They stopped. And that's why the ICO happened in the way that they've happened today. So last year, you're looking at something like 64 ICOs, raising a little over $100 million, excluding the DAO. And the DAO did something that was very valuable to the space, and that was that it demonstrated that the model can scale. It gave entrepreneurs, obviously, that didn't work out, and it was a colossal mistake, and that's where security audits are everything. Security audit, security audit, security audit, and make sure you're really well lawyered up. There is zero room for error. The penalty for financial crimes in many parts of the world is death or life. Those are the stakes, so please make sure you know what you're doing. And there's no room for error in many instances when you're a fiduciary of other people's assets. But it demonstrated that this model scales, and so instead of entrepreneurs that couldn't raise money elsewhere doing ICOs, it went from the best entrepreneurs in the world saying, I'd rather do an ICO than take venture capital. It's becoming the preferred method of entrepreneurs and innovators today. I mean, we can see that with over $2 billion. I think we're at $2.3 billion today, and that's probably not including some numbers. It's probably more like 2.5 or higher, maybe even $3 billion at this point. And that trend line is pretty impressive. This I find to be very interesting as well. This is the amount of money going into ICOs versus early stage venture capital. We're already 4 times bigger than all early stage venture capital. Venture capital is dead. It'll take 10 years for the structure to go away. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be room for people that do work like VCs, which is provide resources to innovators and entrepreneurs, provide them with connections and advice and help. I mean, that's not going anywhere. It's just the structure is going to go away because it's a vehicle that's designed only for the financial elite, pensions, endowments, high net worth family offices, and it's an illiquid asset. You know, what this is doing is we're tokenizing those assets so that it's liquid and democratized and available to everyone. So venture is going to go away, private equity, REITs, a bunch of great stuff is coming. I'll take a couple of seconds just to talk about EOS. And one of the things that, you know, I'm focused on as I see kind of how these projects are evolving, and that is that I can directly attribute, I think, many of the problems in the world to a misalignment of interest. And that is that you've got a customer, an employee, and a shareholder. A customer just wants to get the best product and service. An employee wants to do something they feel good about and get the remuneration they need to live their lives. And the shareholder just wants maximum ROI. All three of those parties want something completely different. And when you misalign interests, we all know if you've done any business, that's where problems arise. When your interests are aligned with everybody, things actually go pretty smooth. And so the corporation, and I'm a hardcore capitalist, I'm a crypto capitalist. The corporation is an old paper structure that is just misarchitected, and we can do better. And so what's happening is all these centralized systems where you've got, you know, misalignments of interest are going to become aligned. Because what happens is in this new world, which I like to think of as tribes, and we'll all be unemployed. You know, unemployment is coming for all of us. But in that new world, I'm going to want to be a customer of certain things. And that's really almost like joining a tribe. And to be a customer, I'm going to need a token. And once I become a token holder, well, now I start to look like a shareholder. So now I'm a customer and a shareholder. But because I'm a shareholder, I'm probably now a contributor, and that starts to look like an employee. What happens is those three functions become one. And when those three functions become one, you get a complete alignment of interests because everyone benefits from everyone. It's no longer about a world of proprietary things where I'm trying to take care of me. We go from a world of me to a world of we, where anything you do benefits me and anything I do benefits you, and vice versa for all of us. And in that world, like with open source, it's all about sharing all of your knowledge to the benefit of everyone and vice versa. I mean, we can fix the primary problem in the world by realigning everyone's interest, and it's this technology that's doing that in a large way. My partner Dan Larimer obviously invented the concept of a DAC in 2014, and very happy to be doing that all with him in this open source, inclusive, aligned interest world where users and beneficiaries all become one. I also want to talk about this briefly. I'm all about meeting billionaires these days. I want to meet all the future billionaires. But to me, a billionaire is not someone with a lot of money. I don't care about money anymore. We make it. I care about people that are going to change the lives of 1 billion people or more. You know, a billionaire, and you want to take these old ideas and give them new meaning. You know, it's the blockchain is the technology that's going to change the world. But technology isn't conscious, right? Technology doesn't know the difference between good or bad. And this old adage of money is power, that paradigm is coming to an end. You know, this new paradigm is technology is power, and having money won't buy you a seat at the table anymore. It's doing something with your money and your resources. It's taking your superhero powers and skills and applying them for the benefit of others. And that's what's going to allow you to be part of these big clubs. And we're not competing on any projects. When there's someone else doing something similar to you, it's not competition. It's split testing. Somebody is trying a different variant to the same idea, and we need to try it all, because if any of us is successful in changing the world, we all win. The only competition that's out there are the people that lack integrity. Those are the people we need to compete with. Those are the people we want to put out of business. And there's this concept of ikigai, which is a big kind of driver, and human beings are inherently good, and we want to find purpose. And it's when you get that alignment of interest where you're doing something you love, and God, is life good right now? And the reason why we want everyone to be unemployed is a lot of people work to live, and that's not a great way to be. And it's what the world needs, what people are willing to compensate you for, meaning they agree you're good at it too, at what you're good at. And it's the combination of all those things where you eventually find this Japanese principle and your ultimate purpose in the center. And everything in the world can be done better. Another great Japanese term is kaizen, and it's the idea of continual improvement. Everything that we show up for in life, do it the best you can. And I want to talk about this. Does anyone know what this is? I'm obviously a long-time burner. And I think of the blockchain as the technology that's going to change the world, and I think of Burning Man culture as the thing that'll save it. And Burning Man is not a place, it's a way of being. And I just encourage you all to dream. Dream big. Because we can all be magicians. We can all be magicians, which is, I think, the main title people have given me these days. And, let's not forget to operate from the heart. The EOS logo is a chestahedron, which is the sacred geometrical shape of the heart. When you peel back the muscles, that is the shape that is produced, discovered in the year 2000. And let's not forget Mother Earth. Let's be responsible with the resources around us. Let's be adults. And it's not about, hey, do I think this is good or bad? Let's just always operate as best we can. And we're going to make mistakes. And there's always a path to redemption. As long as someone is demonstrating that they're continuing to improve and grow, give them second chances. And I think, I guess, believe. This was my wedding at Burning Man last year. So a year and a half, 2 years ago. My wife is Crystal Rose of Sensei. And you've got Eric Pugliera of Block Fee and a bunch of people. All my friends the whole world over, I guess, are in this. My best man is a woman right there dressed in black that was cracking a whip. That was an all-unicorn wedding. And so I just want to close kind of on that note. Couple of predictions as my last statement. ICOs to replace venture capital, private equity REITs. We're going to see more than 1,000 ICOs attempted in Q4. I think by the time we're done, we're going to break 4 billion this year and 10 billion next year. And these are the sorts of numbers that make people pay attention. And if you want to ever ask me anything, you can go to Brock.ai. That was a present from my wife last year. That's the artificial intelligent version of me that tries to answer the same questions that have been asked before. Thank you.